veer away from what we were told to do, then I suppose we always have to come up with an alternative, and that's where doctors came into being. Oh, well, that's my theory. That's the good thing about theories. Anybody can say whatever they feel and how they think it happened, and that was my theory. Doctors came because we did not adhere to what we were told, and we veered off. We started to eat what we wanted to eat. We were not sleeping enough. Then we needed cars, and we needed planes and boats, and we polluted the atmosphere, and we don't want to eat the greens anymore because we're above that. We want to wine and dine with knife and forks, and so therefore the consequences are that we are going to get sick, and we are getting sick. And in order for you to find some comfort, you have to go to the doctors, because healing takes a while. People don't have patience. We saw that from the beginning. And so that is the process. It goes on and on, that vicious cycle that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, recognizing that if we want to live long, we have to do the things that we were told to do, or we have to go to the doctor's office. And so what have you chosen, Jamal? I want to thank you for coming back.
Thank you.
I've been thinking about this program. The program before preceded us last week, which was like yesterday, right?
I know.
And because we didn't get to finish it, I so many questions that you had to ask, and we didn't ask it. So we're gonna see if we can get into it now. For those of you who are just joining, you are in tune with Your Views. Your Views today, the host for Your Views is Sandra Quilliatitan, and my guest is Jamal. Jamal is not just a pretty face. She has been, she's from St Kitts. She was raised here. She left here at around the age of 18, but before that she have done a stint where everybody would have taken her beauty and made it into something else. She's been into pageantry. She has vocals that she's unheard of. I was trying to see if I can get one of her CDs. I used to listen to it every time I turned on my car. I was so proud of that voice. I mean, I used, every time it was always stuck in there. That CD was stuck in there, and it was something that I listened to all the time. She's a writer. She edits right now. She is into beauty oils. She has studied what your body, problems that your bodies would have, and how to help it in some way. She's very particular about the things that she eats. She's not really one of those health gurus, but very health conscious. And it reflects not just in her youthful face, but her flawless body that I am privileged to sit and watch. And I can say all these things about Jamal. Jamal, welcome to Your Views.
Thank you. You are very good for my ego.
I know. Now, that was not for your ego. That is a fact. And people always think
Thank
that when you
you.
tell the truth, it builds and boosts your ego. No, it is a fact, and you have to say it like you said. We are people that I think that we tend to like to sit and criticize. You see somebody who walks on the road, and you see this, they're flawless. For me, in my side, everybody's flawless. But everybody's, I want to look at your flaw. Oh, why she had to do that? Why she had to do this? You look at, and you look at the worst, and it's not even the worst things, but you have to find something.
Yes.
That is who we are as human beings. But I am the kind of person who always look at the beauty in everyone, because all of us are.
There
And,
is definitely something to love in each and every one of us, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I know that that's a fact. And because of that, some people who depend on people to boost their ego or boost their confidentiality, I mean, they're highly dependent on that. And so when people make negative remarks, it affects them. But me, I don't. I know who I am, and I don't need that. But some people do. This morning I got up, Jamal, and I asked myself the question, because I was rushed when I called you.
Yes.
I was not even getting ready yet. And so I know I had to rush into the shower and come out and wash my face. Every Friday I do that, wash my face. It is one of my rituals that I wash my face on Friday. During the week, I don't ever remember to do that. So I washed my face last week Friday, and I washed it again today. And then I asked myself the question, why do people wear makeup, though? Why do you spend so much time on changing what you look like into something that you think people would like to see? And you feel, because it was just that when I started putting on the lipstick, because I do apply lipstick, something that I like. I never did like it when I was growing up. I was afraid to walk out first, but then it has become me. One of the things that I put on at mornings, that lipstick, it protects your lip, one of the things. And it also, you want to have red lips, and so you just you just paint them. I think that's what it is. Is in all honesty, and so I asked myself, why do people wear makeup though, Jamal? What do you think?
I think that you just answered that somewhat, because some people just do like it. I have little nieces, and they will come around, and they just want to play, and they want to put the colors on their cheeks, and they want to try the lip glosses, and they think it's this thing that just glamorizes them, beautifies them, and makes them feel almost princess-like. Because look at the images that we see out there, the things that infiltrate the minds of especially young girls and boys at such a young age. You look at storybooks, for example. All of the princesses are made up specifically a certain way. The big, wide, doe-looking eyes with the big eyelashes. And you have the pink cheeks and the red lips. So in a young girl's mind, that is the image of beauty. That is the personification of beauty. And we want that. We want to be perceived as beautiful, and by whatever means necessary, sometimes to some extremes, unfortunately. So I think what it comes down to is, what is your definition of true beauty? And is it really everything that's external, or do we have it in us to really dig a little bit deeper than that?
And it's again what society accepts. And women who feels like, we see people are bleaching their skin because they think men like lighter skin, the lighter complexion. And so we black women would have lost that. It is sad, because it comes back down to, as black women, who are we is the question you ask. What do we portray? Who are we interested in? It's because all black men, like the browning, they call them, that yellow skin, they feel like when you have that kind of complexion, everybody gravitates. They don't even want to see your face. They just want to see that glow, that kind of complexion, and they tend to gravitate. Yeah. And so some women find that, men like this, so therefore let me do this. And they change their whole self, their whole persona, their whole color thing. You're black today and you're light tomorrow, not recognizing the other health issues that you're creating just because you want to look beautiful.
I think that when it comes to the skin bleaching aspect of things, I do think that there should be some onus on our own community, because, as you know, I had the opportunity to visit Africa several times, and one of the things that I realized was that the skin lightening, this is just a residual effect of slavery.
Yeah.
Because it was this idea that there was something wrong with the darkness of our skin, and that there was something beautiful about a lighter complexion. And even though we've removed the shackles, mentally that concept is still really there. And unfortunately, it's so embedded in our own communities that you have black men really pitting black women against each other. They will vocally express the fact that they prefer light-skinned black women over darker-skinned black women. And these are all black women. So if black women already feel as though they're perceived a certain way by other ethnicities, and then within their own groups, they still feel like they're being, outcasted and shunned because of their skin color, then it's only natural for them to want to be what they think the norm is, which is lighter in their view. And I think that if that is to change, it first needs to change within our own communities. We need to start looking at each other differently, and black men need to really start holding black women up to a certain standard instead of adding to that division by, separating us because of our skin color, our shapes, and things like that.
And it's Black History Month, and we don't want to. It's one of the reasons why, again, because I know you visited Africa, we don't want to look at the slavery aspect. We want to look at the effects of and how we are continually carrying it. The same thing, and we look back at it and we shun, we shiver because we don't want to be there again. But we are there still. Yeah. We are still mentally enslaved. We are still confused. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we're going as black people. And I said, let's focus on our black women. Because of that, we have lots of our black women doing things that are dangerous to their health because they want to be beautiful. They want people to accept them. And already we have that low self-esteem because we are black. And in the Caribbean, we don't understand our blackness. In Africa, you would have visited. What is it like about black women? How do they feel? Is it the same problem that we experience in the Caribbean? Or is
I learned I learned that insecurities when it comes to women, it's definitely we do not hold the monopoly over that for sure because
Wow.
I know women of all all ethnicities and they all struggle with the same thing. So yeah, in Africa it is the same thing and that's why skin bleaching is also so prevalent there as
Wow.
well. To the point where it's something that is now being criminalized. They will go in and they will raid shops and stores and remove the soaps and the lotions from some of these shops. And then 2 days later, they'll be restocked. And it's because there's a demand. If there was no demand for bleaching or bleaches, there would be no reason to have this stuff on the shelves. But because women, it's so sought after by women, I got the opportunity to speak to an African musician who I won't mention her name, but she was very honest, very candid about the fact that her career changed, the trajectory of her career completely changed once she lightened her skin.
Wow.
The job opportunities came in, the endorsements came in, the opportunity to go to the US came, and all of this she was not afforded because her skin color was much darker. The exact same talent, the exact same inner beauty and personality, but because the color of her skin was darker, for some reason, doors were not being opened for her. So when you see one person try something like that, and then in your mind it worked because now she's so successful, another young Black African woman is looking at that and thinking, well, this is exactly what I need to do now because this is clearly the way that this is going to work for me.
You know, that's the sad part about it because we're losing ourselves. We're losing who we are. We are falling, not we are not falling prey because you're already there. We're already been preyed on. But we are basically giving in because it's for opportunities that you need. If that is the situation, if you're going to accept me, not as a dark-skinned woman, but as a lighter-skinned woman, I am Black. It matters not if you bleach from now till next week. You are going to be Black. You are a lighter shade, but you are Black. And I think that we have to start to embrace our Blackness. We celebrate our Black History Month. We talk about all the challenges we would have had as Black people. But as Black people, we continue to do the same because people who talk about it are the ones. Look at the professionals. Look at the Black men who succeeds. When you see them walking on the road, who they have on their arms? A white woman. And when you look at a Black woman who would have succeeded, the same thing. When you look at her arm, who do you see? A white man. Why? Why is it that we always have to take good is not or great is not good enough for us as Black people? And Black people, we're the ones who excel. Instead of taking our own up, we always take the and people look at you and think that you're racist. It's not that. It's about promoting our Blackness and understanding that we are powerful and we are beautiful. In all our Blackness, we are because beauty is not just on the outside; it radiates from the inside out.
It does.
And people don't understand that. You look at Black. I remember when we went to, we took this cruise, and we were in. I think it was in Italy. Was it Italy? I think it's in Italy, and we saw these Black people. When I tell you Black, when Black till they were blue,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at them, I'm like, it was the first time that I saw that denseness of Black, that
Yes.
dense Blackness on a human, and it was like wow. And I went to them because it was beautiful, the white teeth that came through and the Blackness that was there. And I asked him, "Where were you from?" He said, "From Sudan." He was a Sudanese,
Yes.
and I was like, "Wow."
Yeah.
And it's like we think that we are Black. You should look at that. It is Black, but it was very
But it is
beautiful.
so beautiful.
It was
Yeah.
so beautiful. And I look at my pale, not pale, but my lighter complexion, and I'm like, I want to be that Black. Honestly, I want it to be that Black. And then when you look at people who have it and wants to change it, it's not right.
One of the things I learned from one of my trips there was that, and this actually came from a Congolian woman, and she said to me, she had the most beautiful, dark, just deeply pigmented skin.
Wow.
And just smooth to the touch. And I asked her, I said, what is it that you do to your skin? And she was so physically fit, like just toned from top to bottom. And I just couldn't stop looking at her. So I had to talk to her. And when she told me about just the fact that she eats from the earth, and she's telling me about the fact that, you know, she walks certain distances a day because she has to go for water and all of that. But then she said something to me. She said, we don't know what we're missing if we're not exposed to certain things. So what you have becomes enough when you're not exposed to, you know, all of these other things, all of these other factors, the glitz and the glamour. She said there's so many neighbors that she had, and the moment they got exposed to what the Western world, the other parts of the Western world were doing, they started to change the way that they were doing things. And that's when they stumbled across problems. She said, I don't have access to TV. I don't have access to social media. I don't have access to magazines because of where she is.
Wow.
But what she has works so well for her. And it just got me to thinking, is that really the reason? Is it because we've become so exposed to everything else that's out there, so we think that what we have just isn't good enough, and we want what we want, and we want it now?
Yeah, because you'll be able to compare. I think that's one of the biggest use you have, when you can compare you to this and not to you, to who you're really supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think before we were exposed to, we were only looking at Antigua Channel and ZIZ. St Kitts, people would come here and they would look at us like, oh, these people are so primitive. Look at it. But it was we were very happy. Our crime rate was down. People look within themselves and think that they were really beautiful, knew that they were very beautiful. We didn't have the lipstick as much, and the only people who used to wear lipstick was those people who were going into pageantry, who had to showcase themselves and making themselves look like princesses, because that was the idea. When you become a queen, because you're royal status now, so of course royalty wears makeup and those bang lashes and, you know, everything else that was, you know, was. And then you were not allowed to wear, in those times, you had to be as natural as you possibly can. You were not allowed to use certain things. You were not allowed to wear weave. You were not allowed to wear. You had to take your natural self and present yourself during those times in pageantry. Now it's different. Everything is accepted. You're allowed to enhance and change and do all sort of things, and to take your unnatural self and on stage, because you want to be that queen that you're vying for. And I think it's over the years that all of these things has changed. Because when I was growing up, I mean, walking barefooted in the road didn't mean anything. It was part of your culture. It was natural. I mean, Bata was selling those shoes. Nobody would look in. Earth shoes was a big thing because it was different then, with leather tie, with a little high heel. But those people were not, you know, so caring about the type of clothes that you wear, the way that you look. You presented your own self, and it was good to feel like you. And when you can come from that era, because I would have lived that until now, and you see the youngest child, I mean, the young girls, they haven't even gotten the chance to experience who they really are. The enhancements changes. They walk on the road and they are all, you don't know who. The face is splattered with the foundation. You have the foundation, then you have the blocks, and then you have the windows, and then you have the roofs. And it's a complete building, because when I see them putting on makeup, who would sit in a mirror for an hour and 15 minutes trying to put on this hair, eyelashes longer than, they're like broomsticks. And you wonder, when you take that off and you look at your beautiful self, and when you put that on and you look at that change, what society wants, you feel you're confused. And that is why our young people are confused.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand what is natural beauty, what it is to be your own true self.
Because the concept of that is very convoluted, and I think it's very easy sometimes to point the finger, because yes, there is some blame, a lot of blame to be put on on the media and things like that and the rest of the world, but it does come back to us, because if I knew then what I know now about so many things, I honestly don't think that I ever would have even ventured into pageantry beyond a certain point, because you know, the talented teens and those ones, those I probably still would have. Those are fine.
Showcasing your talent.
Showcasing your talent. But at this point in my life, my thinking is this: what does being in a swimsuit on stage have to do with being an ambassador for this country for a full year? That is simply for the exploitation of women, and that is only for the amusement of men and other spectators.
Entertainment.
It's for entertainment.
Thing, yeah.
So if we can do that to the women within our own culture, then can we really blame others for then looking at our women in a way where all they see is a source of exploitation as well? Because if you're really looking for the best representative for your country, someone who has to speak, someone who has to put their inner beauty forward, then what she looks like is in a swimsuit has absolutely nothing to do
Nothing
with
to
that.
do with it. And I
So
said, Jamal, I've said it so. When you become Miss St. Kitts and you become the ambassador for St. Kitts, do you walk out in your naked self and he says, this is who? No, and why they place so much emphasis on this though? And I've always said, if I was to become a judge, I always, because that you representing means that you would have to have discussions, you have to sell your country. So it's about talking, not about taking off your clothes and showing this, because that is something that should not happen. But people always look at it, sex sells. Every time you have, even the advertisement, women have to put on the skimpiest clothes. And you ask, when you look at the topic or what the message you're trying to convey, I'm asking, so why you have to have a dress like that though?
Yes.
Why? It's exploitation, and we talk about the fact that we hate slavery, but this is what we are continually doing with our women.
Yes, we are doing it to our own people and we're doing it to the women. And once you manage to break the spirit and the self-confidence of the women, then that will trickle down to the children. It will affect your personal lives, your relationships, your jobs, and then you have problems within your marriages, problems within the home, and then all of the fingers get pointed right back to that woman because she is supposed to be the backbone to that family. She's supposed to be the glue that holds everything together. So if she begins to fall apart, your children start to fall apart, your relationship begins to fall apart, and then the society and the community on a whole begins to fall apart because we underestimate the real function and purpose of women in the society and how much power we actually hold in keeping things together. A few years back, I got to go to Indonesia, and around that time, there was a debate about the Miss World pageant that was supposed to take place a few years prior to that. And because of the women that band together and kept writing and kept protesting, the Miss World had to be relocated to an entirely different country because they refused to exploit their women at that time.
Wow.
And what happened, what I realized there was the way that they were training these women to prepare them for pageantry was nothing like I had ever seen. They cared less about what they looked like in evening gowns and swimsuits, and it was more about the etiquettes of women. Let's teach our women to have more respect. Let's teach them to be women that carry themselves in a certain way. We have women who wear the crown, for example, of all types of titles in this country and other countries and other Caribbean islands. And a lot of them don't even know what fork to start with at a dinner. A lot of them don't really know how to carry themselves within a certain setting. They're not as worldly as they should be because the things that should be focused on during preparations for these pageants to find the best representative to be, the person that is representing the country for an entire year, they're not being coached in the things that they should. It's more about their sexuality and their physical appearance. All of the things that really don't matter where being a true ambassador is concerned.
You went far about knowing about folks. They don't even know how to present themselves. It is the sad thing. I mean, I was having a discussion with this young girl who wants to enter pageantry, and I was trying to change the focus. Let's not look at what they take your body to be the last thing. There's so many other things that you have to start focusing on, especially the way you present yourself, speech, not half naked, of course. It's about not revealing so much. But she said, but that's the focus. Let's change the focus. If we continue to give in to them, they would always take more. And when you look at what is happening, they're changing. Once ago, you couldn't go in unless you have on a full swimsuit. Now you can go in with a two-piece bathing suit. These are the kind of things that you see because you want more. Every time you give in, they take more, and they take more, and we have to stop it. It has to stop.
It's regressive.
Yeah, it's
very regressive.
And you look at the same mentality for men. You have a wife home. First, you look at her first. She was nice and slender. She got your babies that you wanted. Then her body changes, and then you start looking outside for those kind of, the same thing. A woman has to always be like a dolly all day in order for her man to accept who she is. So every day you get home, you have to make up because your man is going to come home and he wants to see that because you're like a mannequin. You have to go to work and then you come back again. So you never get a chance to be yourself. And in the event, you lose yourself and you create a worse situation because you can't be yourself. You can't be the person who they want you to be. And so you lose your whole, you become basically depressed. And people ask, why women become so depressed so fast? Because they don't know who they are. They've lost themselves trying to please every single body. You try to please your children, then you recognize they're the fault, why you can't please your husband. And then society look at you as, oh, you were once that and not who you are right now, because you're always you. You might change physically, but the you that people knew then, the slim you is the same fat you. The short hair you is the same long hair you. People fail to realize that because they're always so focused on what you can bring to them, or how you're gonna change for them. And that's why I love being me. I do. I would never lose who I am, because I can't relate to somebody else other than myself.
You said it. If a woman has to be something other than herself, then it is always going to become a challenge to maintain that, because it's a pretense and a charade that you have to keep up. And if you're being someone else, it becomes a very daunting task to have to maintain that standard constantly. So it is going to become frustrating for the woman, and it is going to create a level of resentment toward whomever she feels is the cause for her having to keep this pretense up. So if it's the man that she's with, the society that she's living in, she slowly starts to turn into a bitter, depressed
soul.
type of person, because that is not who she is. If she is allowed to be her true self, then it doesn't become a chore anymore, because we know how to be our authentic selves better than we know how to do anything else. But we spend so much time running from that because we feel like that's just not what is accepted. That's not what's perceived as being beautiful. And I think that that's unfortunate, because I overheard a conversation recently where someone was talking about going in for the Miss St. Kitts pageant, and they were speaking to me about it and asking me what I thought about it. And this is a very intelligent young woman, and she's questioning whether she should do this pageant or not, based on the fact that she is not in the place physically that she feels she needs to be in, even though intellectually she has every single attribute that would make a good representative for this country. But because she doesn't feel like she fits the physical mold, it's almost out of the question for her right now. So you're losing these really amazing young women who can truly be a great example and good role models for young girls, because they don't feel like they fit, the mold of looking a specific way in a swimsuit on stage. We're creating a playing field of division, because we're already putting women to compete with one another.
Yeah,
and that in itself is a problem. I've been here and I've observed certain things. You have schools that have, for example, it's Black History Month, and you have schools that are having children have to wear an outfit, an African wear, and then they're competing. They're giving prizes for best African wear at the age of 5 and 6 and 8 years old.
Yeah.
So now you have children coming to school that can only wear an outfit that their mother or father can afford to have them wear, and they're not winning any prizes. So you're already embedding in these children's minds this concept of competitiveness that has to do with visuals, that have to do with material things. And it's not a good trend to be setting at such a tender age, because that's when a child's mind is so spongy. It's like it just absorbs everything.
The mimic. They become, that's what they do, they mimic.
And then that extends into a culture of now grown women who can do nothing but compete with each other.
And you know what? They never understood the competition since they were children. And it goes up, even when you're big, you never understand the competition. It's always wanting to look better. It's look better than that person. So you go out, you do everything just to look better. It's sad. It's really sad. I always tell people, because as soon as they see my daughter, they come and say, "Oh, Sandra, Leigh is such a beautiful girl. She's going in for Miss St. Kitts." No, that's not what she is. She's not. Why? And that what people look at you, they perceive you to look good naturally. I mean, I said, when she goes in for Miss St. Kitts, she would not be her, because you're gonna have to change this and this want to change. They're not what they saw before that got you there. They want to enhance it now, make you look like you're some puppy show. So those of you who are out there looking, please. I mean, there are boundaries, and that's one of them. And you stop exploiting our young women like that. It's exploitation.
I think this fear of, if we don't exploit the women, we won't get any viewers. Or if we don't
Viewers?
exploit the women, no one will show up, because who wants to see a woman's intelligence being displayed on stage?
Never.
Who wants to see just her personality? And I think that it's very unfortunate that that's the standard that we have even of our own society,
Yeah.
that they don't care about anything else other than what women look like. I think that if we raise the bar and we expected more from ourselves and each other, then we have no choice but to rise up to those standards.
Let's start about let's even look at those carnival costumes. It sickens me, honestly, and I say it all the time. It sickens me when you look and see what people show and put out, and how they ridicule who. I mean, there's some people who are physically they're not ready for those costumes, but yet still wear it. And I applaud them because they recognize that they can be that too. But instead of people look at them and applaud them, they ridicule them. You have to start raising the bar. Carnival is not about showing who are you catering to? What audience do you want then? When you have people, young women, not having an understanding of what they're doing in the first instance, and when men look at you doing that, all of a sudden, can I have your number? And you become that. And then you ask yourself later on when you have a good understanding of where you are, and you ask, why am I here? Not recognizing that, yeah, I was trying to have a good time. I was loving me, but then it was in a way that people look at it sexual. It's always that. It's always about your sexuality. And sometimes we ourselves have to look within ourselves and recognize that we are who we are and not what people want us to be and what we want people to accept. We are who we are. We are as beautiful as who. I mean, I can never be you, Jamal. I look at you and I admire you, but I would never want to be you. Because I do look at me and I admire me and I love who I am. And that is one of the things that people always want to mimic. When you see people, you have the Rihannas walking down, the Beyoncés becoming, and you ask them the question, well, I want to look like Beyonce. I want to be Beyonce, but you can never be Beyonce. You are a dark-skinned, nappy-head black woman.
And
nappy doesn't
beautiful.
mean I'm beautiful. Nappy doesn't mean bad. Nappy means that's the texture of your hair, and people look at it as that. And it's beautiful because people are now trying to get those tighter curls. We were running away from it once ago. Now we're trying to get there. We do all kind of chemicals in the hair to get that tighter curl. We're confused, aren't we?
But the reason for that also is because once someone else accepts something within us or about us, then all of a sudden we like that thing about ourselves when it was always there. It took other people of other ethnicities to say, we really love your afro or your kinky hair, for
And
us
then
to
we
then
start
start
to wear the
embracing
afro.
that. And I think that that is so sad. And when you talk about the carnival costumes, I mean, I think grown-ups have the right to enjoy themselves however they choose, but there needs to be responsibility. There are no regulations. I remember growing up, there was a kiddies carnival, and then there was an
But you see what the
adult
kiddies are
carnival.
dressing
And,
in
and
now?
I remember I never even used to go to the adult carnival. That was the
You're
day
not
I
allowed.
stayed home.
You were not allowed.
And now everything is just melted into one, and you have young children being exposed to seeing, body parts of women that
Body
they
parts?
shouldn't
But
be seeing.
look at what is done,
and
Joe.
men
actions.
and women who are drunk, and there's alcohol involved, and then there's the dancing, and then there's just the display of simulation of sexual activities, and all of this is being displayed in front of children. So there is no responsibility for the protection of these young minds, and I think that's where the danger with that comes in.
We look at our Africans and the way they dance and the gyrate and the movement. It's a natural thing, but then they're well clothed and it's on their own. I have most of the time you see a woman twerk, she's on her own and she's doing it's a body movement because it's a natural thing that you have. But they're properly dressed. It's not anything that is you're not exposing yourself, but it's what we have naturally. We have that natural rhythm that that's within us, and we want to express it. But the way we do it is not about lying on the streets and others lying, and you just like you said, that simulation of activities that are inappropriate for our young children to look at. And we have to start looking at that. We talk about how we were exploited by the other races, by white people, how they took us and we became who we are now. But look at what we're doing to our own. When are we going to stop? When are we going to wake up and realize that we are a lost, I always say, a confused and a lost race. We don't know who we are. We don't know from whence we come. And we are going further and further in adopting other people's culture and making it our own and losing ourselves in the process.
Because we've lost the concept of community. When I was in Africa, one of the things I fell in love with in certain parts was the tribal aspect of living.
Yeah.
This concept of one community really being like one big family.
Yeah.
And family is supposed to look after one another. Family is supposed to be responsible for each other. So, when I was growing up, my neighbors had the right to beat me if I did something.
Yep.
They had the right to go and complain to my mom if I was acting out of sorts, and then I'd be punished for that. And I think that we've lost that, where you are on your own, you don't tell me anything, you mind your business, and it just turns into every man for themselves. And the problem is, as much as we would like that, we're not always strong enough in every aspect to deal with everything on our own. That person might have more wisdom to impart on your child than you do. And I think that we've become such a selfish and arrogant society that we don't even realize when we're becoming our worst enemy and our children's worst enemy.
Yeah, and then we blame the kids. Like Javier was telling me that this little boy, he came to get some ice cream, and he ran across the road, and he said, "No, you have to be careful, don't run." And the mother said, "Don't talk to a child like that." I'm like, he's trying to call a little bit. No, don't run across the road like that. You have to take your time. Look for the traffic coming. And the mother said, "Don't talk to a child like that." And then we ask ourselves, and we blame the young people for who they have become, not recognizing our contribution to that as older people. We're the ones who are supposed to make sure that children, it's carried down. Just like you say, it was a whole village that raised me. They were responsible for me. When I left my house, everybody's eyes were on you. You do things that was out of character, and you can't go home and tell your mother, "Oh, Miss Wallace hit me." The first question she's gonna ask is why, and then she said, "Bring the whip and come," and you're gonna get a second licking because then you're acting out of character. So your mother didn't have to be there, here, there, and everywhere because everybody understood where you were supposed to be as a child. Not now.
Yes.
The children would look at you and they would curse you inside out. You ask to go to take them home to their parents. And so when you telling my child, "I didn't put you to look after my child," and that is what we are seeing. And again, you look at young children are raising children. And the mothers of those young children are still young. You understand that? You have people who are 30 how many years old are becoming grandparents. Because, and it's going down from generation to generation, and it's that vicious cycle that we have to start looking at it now. But we talk about it all the time, but nobody's doing anything about it, though.
I think one of the problems is because adults, and it's probably one of the saddest things when grown-ups are the reasons why a young child's spirit gets broken. I think that's one of the most dangerous things, because you now no longer become that person that child can trust, that person that child is supposed to be going to for advice. You're now the person that child fears. And when children can no longer turn to adults, they turn to other children. And because they are children, they are not going to be making adult decisions. They're going to be making adult decisions, in very immature ways.
Not having the understanding of it.
And then you have these things happening, and then you have these pregnancies coming out of it. But it's because instead of pulling a young girl aside and talking to her, you talk about her. And I think that's the sad part, because it's the adults that are really weighing these children down. And instead of helping them, it's more scrutinizing them and doing it in such a way where children no longer feel vulnerable to be open and honest with you. They want to hide everything from you because you're coming across as so judgmental. Instead of wanting to impart wisdom in a kind and compassionate way, it's just scrutiny and judgment as though you were never there at some point in your life. It's
impatience, though. You find a lot of mothers who are very impatient. You have to get up in the morning, you have to go out to work. Some mothers are doing 2 and 3 jobs. Some of them are working in shift. When the child gets home, the mother wants to party. And so they're tired. And when you come, the child wants to have a conversation. Gone are the days when you can lie down and you can read a book, a story, or have a story one of those Nancy stories, or about your history, about where you came from, just having a discussion. Gone are those days. I mean, TV is raising our children, and then you ask, internet, WhatsApp, the little table, tablets, the cell phone. Our children, young children at this young age, too, they have their little tablet, and you think that is a good thing. And you have these young children who are talking like Americans. They have lost the dialect, and when you speak to them, you have that accent, and you want to know, well, how come they're talking like that? Because the friends, the Sally Ann, that's on the internet, on the tablet, and it's starting now. And it's gonna be, and people think it's a good thing when you can look at, oh, look how good she's on the internet. She can flip. She knows what she's doing. That is who's raising that child.
Yes.
She has a vivid imagination. She's talking to these people like they're real. We don't know that we don't understand the dangers of these things, because what it allows us to stay on our phone, have a conversation, prolonged conversation on our cell phone or on WhatsApp or on Facebook, while our children are being otherwise occupied with a tablet the same way. So you feel like that's I don't have to raise them. So children are not raised now these days. They're brought up on a tablet, on social media. They're on social media. They all those cartoon characters they have become.
Yes.
When you look at children having birthdays, what do you want for your birthday? I want to be a princess, or I want to be Paw Patrol, or those are the things, those are the characteristics that our children have basically adopted, not realizing they're not real. And we have to start now as adults. I mean, can we though?
We can. I think that there's definitely always room for growth, and there's never a bad time to press the reset button, because it is very sad. I had a sleepover summer party for 5 little girls, my nieces and little cousins, actually last Friday night.
Yeah.
Good Lord. What was interesting, though, was by the time bedtime came around, I saw a complete shift in these children once I took the gadgets away. The iPads, the phones, they became so depressed and so angry at me. I almost questioned whether I was doing a good job, with the sleepover or not. And then I realized it's not me, because I haven't done anything to these children.
Yeah.
Their parents have. And having to have a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old say, but I can't sleep unless I'm on my phone, or I can't sleep unless I'm on my tablet. It was just so disheartening for me, because I know your mother is asleep at that time, but the children are still up until all types of hours of the night, and they're buried in these gadgets. And it's not the fear of, well, my child is going to rebel if I take the gadgets away. For the parents, it's convenience.
Yep.
And another thing is, it goes back to community, like I said. If you have a friend and she is a mother, don't call her every weekend to go partying. Tell her to stay home and spend time with her daughter, raise her daughter. When I grew up, my mother's bedroom door was never locked to me. And you go into person's houses now, and you find their bedroom, they only live with their children, but their bedroom doors, mothers are locking their rooms from their daughters, from their young daughters, and creating this divide where your child needs permission to get your attention.
Wow.
And I think that is the saddest part of the story, because all of these other things are being prioritized, from relationships with men to going out and partying, drinking, getting their hair and their nails done. All of these things are being prioritized above your children.
And it's a fact. It sounds as it sounds. I grew up the same way. The bedrooms was never. My mother was really, anytime you want to access her, she was accessible. I mean, she could be sleeping, and now you walk straight into the room, the door wasn't locked. And you wonder, I mean, only now that you're big, you wonder, well, how come the door never locked? It's the same thing. I can't lock my doors because there's no privacy in my house. We don't have any. My children walk in, they open whenever they want to. They have a conversation with you wherever you are and whatever you're doing. They walk in and have a conversation. If you're in the bathroom, they just open the door, come in. And because it is what it is. And my son is old enough. He's 28, 29. And my daughter is 18. And they're just walking like nothing. There's no such thing as having your privacy. What privacy? Your children have a problem, and they can come and access you whenever they want to. Because if they can't get you to you, they're going to call somebody. Why are you on the phone? I'm having a problem. So why you didn't call me? Because you were busy. Those are the stories that you hear.
Yes.
But no, my children know that it matters not. If I'm on the telephone and my children want to talk to me, I will say, listen, I can't have this conversation with you right now. My daughter needs me and I can't concentrate because my granddaughter needs my attention. And people say, Sandra, I can't call you now because your phone is always this. And I can't because I have my granddaughter that I'm looking after and she always needs my undivided attention. And I'm not going to be on the telephone talking for hours, and people don't realize that. You are on the phone for hours and you have a 2-year-old there sitting down waiting, sometimes crying because they want, and shut up, because you want to have a conversation. The child is disturbing you, not recognizing that the child needs your attention, and that is what happens. And we have to stop it.
I always excuse myself from those conversations. I've
Yep.
been on the telephone, and you will hear that sometimes, and someone wants to keep the conversation going so much that they're barking at their children.
Yep.
And at that point, I think it is the other person's responsibility, because clearly that person's not thinking rationally
Yep.
at that point. It's
Yep.
your responsibility to then go, you know what, I will call you back. We can pick up this conversation another time. Go and tend to your children,
Good.
because that should be your responsibility.
Exactly. But people want to be on the phone until your ears starting to burn, failing to realize that, yeah. And I always say, oh, I have to take up my grandmother duty. Grandmama duties, my grandchild is calling me, but she doesn't hide. She barks on the phone, so you can't have the conversation because she's loud. And so it's time to, we need to go. And parents have to do that, though.
Yes.
Children have to be able to access their parents whenever they want to. This thing about having to knock and, private moments happens when your children are sleeping.
Yes.
Your children are supposed to be able to access you whenever. And that is why we have some problems with depressed children. Children are so depressed. And when you have the discussion with them and they ask me one day, you don't want to be my mother? I wish I could. I wish I could have mothered all of these children who have issues. He said, you don't want to be my mother? My mother never wants to listen. And it hurts me when you hear
Yes.
young people say these things.
I've
They
heard
just
that
want,
many
I can't
times
say
too.
these things to my mother. Why?
Yeah.
Parents don't have the time, and it's sad. And we don't have any more time. It's sad. I'm looking up now and realize that we're totally out of time. It's sad, though, John. You see what it is? When you're having these and it's so much, we can have this discussion on forever and would have
Yes.
something different to talk about all the time. And, we started about exploitation of our women. We came down to the point about losing our culture as black people, women changing the skin color because they want to be lighter and want to be accepted. We reached the point where we see, where we're getting to now, where it started.
Yes.
The fact that parents have been neglecting their children don't have the discussions of knowing who they are and from whence they came and what is expected of them. So you grow up in a society where you want to be like what people think of you, and they have not the control of being able to say yes or no, because they will never allow that at home. I mean, my children, I always tell them, you have a voice, but you have to be always be reminded that when you're talking to me, I am the mother. You can say whatever you want to, but remember the tone. And these are the things. But my children are allowed to express themselves. Children are not allowed to do that. And because of the fact that they are not allowed to express themselves at home, they will not be able to express themselves when they're outside. And so they will have to tolerate what people say on the outside because they think it's the norm. Because it happens at their house.
Yes.
And it is a sad thing. But how do we break the cycle? What do we do, Jamal?
Well, I think I would leave everyone with this. Just find out who you are before the world tells you who you should be. And do that on purpose.
So do not let anybody define you. You have to know exactly who you are. If you don't know who you are, people are going to define you. And I think that is where the weakness becomes. We need to have forums where we can have these kind of discussions.
Yes.
These young mothers who have gotten into motherhood too early and not having an understanding of from whence we came, all the way we were raised and our training. And there's some children who unfortunately have not had the opportunity to see that. Because when I tell people, the life that I lived, they say, you did. But even when I tell my children, Mommy, you lived that life. Yup. And that is why I'm who I am, that strong black woman who listens to nobody but herself and do not care what the world thinks about me, because I know who I am and I am a proud me. And so people who think that they can define me, stop, because it's not going to work. I am who I am. I am proud. I've lived with me all this time. I know who I am. I know what I want to be, and nobody decides where I place myself in society.
It took me a while to get there, but once I got there, that was liberation.
And
for
aren't
me.
you happy?
Yes.
Happiest child on this face.
Yeah, and it's the question I wish people would ask instead of are you married? What are you doing now? What do you do
Yeah.
for work? And where do you live? How about, are you happy? Because if I
Exactly.
can answer that, everything else is going to be answered for you.
Thank you. And I always ask that question. The one of the questions, are you happy though? Is the first. I don't know why I do, because I know happiness is within you. It's not
Yes.
what people give to you, but it's what you take for yourself. So you are the only person that can make yourself happy. And guess what? I'm one of the happiest person on this face of this earth. I do me, and I do what I want to do.
I
That's a
know,
good
and
thing.
I love you for it.
And I'm so sorry that I'm infringing on other people's time, but it was a pleasure. Generally, it's always a pleasure to
Yes,
have
it
you in
is.
my company. I am so privileged, and I tell people I am so privileged to do that and be able to access you whenever I want to.
Thank
It is a
you.
privilege to do so. And
Likewise.
yeah, and you have so much to give. A young girl who have had all these experiences and who found who you are and who really enjoying who you are, and I'm not dictated by anybody. That is a good thing at such a young age.
Hopefully, we'll have the opportunity to really give back in ways that we can on a much larger scale, because I think it's necessary.
Hurry up, come back. We're going to start a TV show. And we can talk about how to motivate and get women to be who they really are. And then we will make sure that children are raised in a better environment, and society, they would not become a social problem. And our place, St Kitts, will be a place that everybody would look to and wondering, how come these people are so different? It's because of the information that we would have given to young mothers and people, not only young mothers, but people who have lost themselves.
Yes.
We can get them back. You're right. There's no wrong time to press the reset button. You can do it whenever you want, and let's start looking at that. My name is Sandra Quilliatis, and it was a pleasure being here. It's a pity, but it is Friday, and like I said, it's a day where you can let your hair down, you can have fun, you can take that breath, or you don't have to go on the plantation tomorrow because it's Saturday. It's like that, and so you can you know that you can sleep in later, you can go out and party, but be wary of the fact that COVID is reality, and you have to make sure you adhere to protocols, wash your hands, social distancing. If you're going to close up, make sure you wear your mask, and realize that the life that you save can very well be your own or that of your child, because sometimes you take home these viruses. Your mother is affected. She's one of those high-risk people, and that's what happens. So your carelessness can be detrimental to people who are taking the time out to do the right thing. So please, enjoy yourself. Enjoying yourself doesn't mean that you have to go out and get drunk and spit in people's face and exposing yourself, breaking down your immune system, and not be unable to fight the virus. But whatever you do, make sure you take care of yourself. Stay tuned to WINN FM 98.9. Voices is up next.